All right, so I went looking for articles this morning for something to report on, right? Because, well, we already covered the Joe Biden thing before everybody else did. This is the story of the fucking channel. It really is legit. It is the story of the channel. We're always ahead of the game on things. Like, when Donald Trump stood here and brought up, like the pipeline from Russia, from Gazprom going into Germany, Like, we were like, hey, we already did this story like a year and a half ago when Obama was still president. Like, man, listen, all right, we are ahead of the game. Right? If you're watching my stuff and you're standing here paying attention to what's going on my channel, legitimately, you're always ahead of the game. And I'm sorry. Like, I'm having a hard time having growth because I'm out ahead of things. Legitimately, I'm out ahead of what's going on right now. So let's get to this. All right. 29% of Americans are considered lower class. Here's how much money they earn. All right. Nearly one-third of American households, 29%, live in lower-class households, the Pew Research Center finds in a 2018 report. The median income of that group was $25,624 in 2016. Pew defines lower class as adults whose annual household income is less than two-thirds of the national median income. That's after incomes have been adjusted for household size. Since smaller households require less money to support the same lifestyle as larger ones, the share of U.S. adults considered lower class varies depending on where you live. Pew notes the metropolitan areas with the largest share of lower class adults are located primarily in the Southwest. California, for instance, the metro with the highest share is Laredo, Texas, where almost half of households, 49%, are considered lower class. Well, that could be because of all the illegals who aren't really earning anything. Like, it just, whatever. All right. More than half of American households, 52%, are considered middle class. Now, let's talk about this. So if one-third of our households are lower class, and me and Peter Schiff and Gerald Celente and a handful of other people were screaming at the top of our lungs under Obama's administration when they were going, oh, look at the jobs, that they weren't good jobs. All right. These were garbage jobs in the service sector. All right. They were Uber, they were waitresses, baristas. They were garbage jobs. All right. All retail nonsense. Okay, legit. They weren't good jobs. They paid nothing. All right. So, Pew reports while 19% are upper class, the median income of middle class households was $78,442 in 2016. For upper income households, it was $187,872. See, man, listen, it's the numbers are skewed. Right? Because if you take out a top 1%, all these numbers just drop to nothing. Like that 78,000 is because the upper 1% really skews the numbers. According to the report, the wealth gap between upper income families and lower and middle income families in 2016 were at the highest levels recorded. The widening gap is a continuation of a decade-long trend. Pew adds in 1970s, when it was first analyzed income data in America, the median income of upper class households was 6.3 times that of lower income households. That ratio increased to 7.3 in 2016. That's not a huge growth. Legit. That's not a monster growth. More recent data from the U.S. Census Bureau finds that the gap between the rich and the poor has grown since 2016 and hit a new record in 2018. Yeah. I'd absolutely believe it. Legitimately. And we've been talking about this on my channel. For the longest, we've been saying the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. All right? You can't continue to print money into oblivion. All right? And sit here and expect, the rich not to get richer because they have stuff. And they have stocks and bonds and investments and houses and cars. So when you print money, it makes all those things worth more in currency. All right. It doesn't add any actual value to them, but it makes them worth more in currency because the dollars are worth less. That's really what's going on. That's what all this is really about. It's the fact that you are devaluing the currency, and it's always going to hurt lower class individuals when you devalue the currency. Because inflation is something that destroys the pocketbooks of America. All right. When you don't have inflation on goods, but you have inflation on large ticket items, and you have low interest rates. So nobody's earning anything on, their savings accounts. Right. So literally the people who are trying to save money for later are being smacked twice. Because, when the average cost of a car goes from, $28,000 to $38,000 in a year. And, when you're saving money and you're not earning anything on it and they're charging you fees for, having that account, it destroys the lower class. That's really what's going on, right? Billionaires like Ray Dalio and Bill Gates have weighed on the growing income inequality in the U.S. Dalio called it a national emergency earlier this year. It's called for higher taxes on the rich like himself to use towards things like public education and infrastructure. No, that's not what we need. What we need is an end to globalization. All right. See, what you're doing is you're globalizing the labor pool. All right. So that means like the people who live in, say, Kentucky are competing for people in jobs, in China. And that's not a way that you can't just chase everybody down the toilet. Literally, that's what you're doing. You're two turds chasing, each other down to the bottom of the toilet. And that's not how this works. We shouldn't be standing here competing with the whole world for labor. You have to have some restrictions on capital. That's really what this is. You don't need taxes. You just need capital not to have so much power to move overseas whenever they want to. And really, honestly, this is because of the petrodollar status. If we didn't have the petrodollar status, we'd be paying way, 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 way more for oil and petroleum, right? And therefore for diesel and fuel. And therefore it would cost a massive amount more for fuel to move things across seas and across the country. And you wouldn't be doing it in the manner in which you're doing it. Logistics would no longer work this way. And we would have had a population problem. And, we would have had everything, solved by now. But we keep kicking this can down the road so we can keep having things just work for the moment. And it's not a good way to do things. One way or another, the important thing is to take those tax dollars and make them productive, he said in the episode of 60 Minutes. Self-made billionaire and Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates would also like to see higher taxes levered on the top earners. He said, I think you can make a tax system take a much higher portion from the people with great wealth, he said on an appearance on The Late Show with his wife Melinda in February 2019. Now, see, I wouldn't have a problem if you took rich people's money and then burned it. If you just didn't put it directly back into the system. Legit, I know that seems counterproductive, but the less dollars we have in the system, the better off we are as poor people. It's just the worse off everybody is as far as retiring and in the stock market, right? It's kind of, it's a giant monetary Ponzi scheme. It's not sustainable because there's less people being born. This whole thing is based on this Ponzi scheme that they're trying to keep going as best they can. But it's never going to work out. In terms of revenue collection, you wouldn't want to just focus on the ordinary income rate because people who are wealthy have a rounding error of ordinary income. He said they have an income that is just as the value of their stock, which is if they don't sell it, it doesn't show up as income at all. Or if it shows up, it shows over in the capital gain side. Yeah, if you don't sell a stock, then you don't take any money off of it. Your value and your ability to pull credit out of the system based on that stock is, higher. But ultimately, if that stock goes down because you take on too much credit and you end up having too many liabilities, it ends up being a problem anyway and you lose money. It's all relative. This is, stop taking money out of the left pocket and putting it into the right. It's dumb. Instead, he suggested the government should be more progressive with the estate tax and on the tax on capital. Now, look. All right. The whole reason you go and earn money is so that you can give it to your children and your offspring. And then your offspring typically tend to blow it because they're worthless, right? And the money goes back into the system in a much more positive way because it immediately goes into lower classes because they spend it on cocaine and hookers and cars and nonsense that they don't need and clothes. So like they literally are promoting the system. They're cutting the middleman out of government, like legit. Instead, he suggested that the government should be progressive with the estate tax and tax. Oh yeah, anyway. During conversations with his hundreds of high school students in New York City earlier this year, the couple specifically spoke about the estate tax, which was levied on assets passed from one person to another, often from parent to child at the time of death. Currently, it only applies to those who inherit estates worth more than $11.4 million. Yeah, like, yo, how much money do you think this is going to net you? Like, yo, it's not going to net you that much money. Like, I don't care about this Ponzi scheme. Like, I really don't. We need to stop the Ponzi scheme and figure out an actual way to make this work without having it be the first one in makes all the gains and the last one out loses everything. Because that's where we're heading right now. Like, there's a better way of doing things. Legitimately, there really is. If you're not going to give money to your children, you should be taxed at a very high rate for passing that on, said Melinda. So there are a lot of it goes to the government and some goes to your kids, Bill chimed in. But you can go a long way raising the estate tax. Raising the capital gains tax and collecting more resources for the equity things that we want government to be able to do. No. You know what I'm saying? No. It's nonsense. Like, yo, it's just gibberish. Legit, man. Like, yo, Bill Gates is a douche. Like, yo, legit, you're just trying to keep these SJWs off your ass right now. That's what you're doing at the moment. Legit. You're trying to stand here and, virtue signal everybody. But you've been a ruthless fucking business professional forever. That's how you made your money. You were ruthless. You stood here and, starved people out and just fucked over workers on a constant basis. Like, yo, we had to break up your company because of the monopolies that you had. Like, yo, I don't think we don't know who you are, Bill. Like, yo, get fucked, dude. Real shit. Anyway, man, it's Tom P's Pino News. Make sure you hit that sub button. All right, peace.